Well, hello again. It's Rick Miracle. And to continue the theme of video number 40, I thought I would revert back to Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. The Bible, so to speak, of the Freemasons, Scottish Rite. And what's interesting about this Morals and Dogma and a lot of the other Masonic texts and books is they seriously match the New Age material. Helena Blavatsky and Annie Besant and Cream. A lot of that occultic material, sun gods, Isis, is also in the Freemasons book. And the particular chapter I wanted to do today was the night of the Rose Cross. And, well, I'll let you decide. Listen to what's in the book. And the night of the Rose Cross, which is the 18th degree of Masonry. The Prince of the Rose Cross. Okay, here goes. Each of us makes such application to his own faith and creed of the symbols and ceremonies of this degree as seems to him proper. With these special interpretations, we have here nothing to do. Like the legend of Master Qumran, and I believe that's Hiram Abiff, in which some see figured the condemnation and sufferings of Christ. Others, those of the unfortunate Grand Master of the Templars, see the sufferings of Christ. Others, those of the first Charles, King of England, the sufferings of Christ. And others still, the annual descent of the sun at the winter solstice to the regions of darkness, the basis of many an ancient legend. You have already learned that these ceremonies have one general significance. To everyone of every faith who believes in God and the soul's immortality. Krishna, the Hindu Redeemer, was cradled and educated among shepherds. That sounds like Jesus. A tyrant at the time of his birth, a tyrant, ordered all male children to be slain. That sounds familiar. He performed miracles, say his legends, even raising the dead. Sounds like Jesus. This is Krishna now, the Hindu Redeemer. He performed miracles, say his legends, even raising the dead. He washed the feet of the Brahmins and was meek and lowly in spirit. He was born of a virgin. Sounds like Jesus. Descended to hell, rose again, ascended to heaven, charged his disciples to teach his doctrine, and gave them the gift of miracles. Alright, page 277. The first Masonic legislator, whose memory is preserved to us by history, was Buddha, who, about 1,000 years before the Christian era, reformed the religion of Monanis. He called to the priesthood all men without distinction of caste, who felt themselves inspired by God to instruct men. Those who so associated themselves formed a society of prophets under the name of Sumerians. The worship of this god reposed upon the obedience of all beings he created. His feasts were those of the solstices. The doctrines of Buddha pervaded India, China, Japan. The priest of Brahma, professing a dark and bloody creed, brutalized by superstition, united together under Buddhism, and with the aid of despotism, exterminated its followers. But their blood fertilized the new doctrine, which produced a new society under the name of Gynosis. It's like Gynosis. G-Y-M-N-O-S-O-P-H-I-S-T. Sophist. Gynosis. And a large number, fleeing to Ireland, planted their doctrine there, and there erected the round towers, some of which still stand, solid and unshaken as the first, visible monuments of remote ages. The Phoenician cosmology, like all others in Asia, was the Word of God, written in astral characters by the planetary divinities and communicated by demigods as a profound mystery to the brighter intelligence of humanity, to be propagated by them among men. Their doctrines resembled the ancient Sabiism, and being the faith of Hiram the king and his namesake, the artist, are of interest to all Masons. With them, the first principle was half material and half spiritual, a dark air, animated and impregnated by the Spirit, and a disordered chaos covered with thick darkness. From this came the Word, and thence creation and generation, and thence a race of men, children of light, who adored heaven and its stars as the supreme being, and whose different gods were but incarnations of the sun, the moon, the stars, and the ether. Chrysor was the great ingenious power of nature, and Baal and Malakart representations of the sun and the moon, the latter word in Hebrew meaning queen. Man had fallen, but not to the tempting of the serpent. For with the Phoenicians the serpent was deemed to partake of the divine nature, and was sacred, as he was in Egypt. He was deemed to be immortal unless slain by violence, becoming young again in his old age by entering into and consuming himself. Hence the serpent in a circle holding its tail in his mouth was the emblem of eternity. With the head of a hawk, he was of a divine nature and a symbol of the sun. Hence, one sect of the Gnostics took him for their good genius, and hence the brazen serpent reared by Moses in the desert, on which the Israelites looked and lived. Behold the chaos that preceded the birth of heaven and earth, said the Chinese Lei Tos. A single being existed, immense and silent, immutable, and always acting, the mother of the universe. I know not the name of that being, but I designate it by the word reason. Man has his model in the earth, and the earth in heaven, and heaven in reason, and reason in itself. I am, says Isis, nature, parent of all things, the sovereign of the elements, the primitive progeny of time, and most exalted of deities, the first of the heavenly gods and goddesses, the queen of the shades. Now isn't that interesting? The enemy in the Middle East right now that has reared its ugly head and is in the front page of the newspapers here in the USA is a group called ISIS. And it says here, I am, says Isis, nature, parent of all things, the sovereign of the elements, the primitive prodigy of time, the most exalted of deities. The Egyptians, skilled in ancient lore, worship me with proper ceremonies and call me by my true name, Isis the Queen. The Hindu Vedas thus define the deity, he who surpasses speech and through whose power speech is expressed. Know that thou, he is Brahma, not these perishable things that man adores. When God resolved to create the human race, says Arnis, he made a being that he called the Word, the Son, wisdom, to the end of this being might give existence to man. This Word, as the Osmos of Zoroaster, the Asaphith of the Kabbalah, the Novus of Plato and Philo, the wisdom of the Demigoras of the Gnostics. So what I'm pointing out here is this is the 28th degree, the Knight of the Cross, the Prince of the Cross. And we know that when we were looking at the New Age books by the Freemasonic societies, they were continually calling for the separation of church and state, specifically the Catholic Church. But it certainly seems to me that here they have a sort of a religion and something they have to study here to get the 18th degree, is it? Alright, back to the book. The actual condition of man is not his primitive condition, that in which he was the image of the Word. His unruly passions have caused him to fall from his original lofty estate. But he may rise again by following the teachings of the heavenly wisdom and the angels whom God commissions to aid him in escaping from the entanglements of the body, and by fighting bravely against evil, the existence of which God has allowed solely to furnish him with the means of exercising his free will. The supreme being of the Egyptians was Amun, a secret and concealed God, and the unknown father of the Gnostics, the source of divine life and of all force, the plenitude of all, comprehending all things in himself. The original light. He creates nothing, but everything emanates from him. I like that one. He creates nothing, but everything emanates from him. And all other gods are but his manifestations. From him, by the utterances of the Word, emanated Nith, the divine mother of all things. The primitive thought, the force that puts everything in moment. The Spirit everywhere extended the deity of light and mother of the sun. Of this supreme being, Osiris was the image, source of all good in the moral and physical world. Constant foe of Typhon, the genius of evil. The Satan of Gnosticism. Brute matter, deemed to always be at feud with the spirit that flowed from the deity, and over whom Har-Orai, the Redeemer, son of Isis and Osiris, is finally to prevail. Wouldn't that be Horus is the son of Isis and Osiris, which is represented by the all-seeing eye that's on the dollar bill? And also American Idol has the all-seeing eye behind it, and national football, and you see that all-seeing eye everywhere. You walk into the federal buildings and the post office, they have the pyramid with the all-seeing eye. So it says here, feud with the spirit that flowed from the deity, and over whom Har-Orai, the Redeemer, son of Isis and Osiris, is finally to prevail. Thought I'd take a break from reading for a minute and look at a couple pictures. We just did the video number 40, which was on the New Age with the meditation. And we have, when I went on to the Rose Croix site, Meditation Moods, Rose Croix recordings was this picture. And the symbol here was interesting. For the rosy cross, the stars, and the woman, like on the Statue of Liberty, and the snake eating itself that we just read about. There's the cross, there's the road, there's the stars. And then looks like almost similar to the Statue of Liberty, Columbus. The secret doctrine of the Rosicrucians. Now this is out of the Freemasonry book. My series is Freemasonry and Satanism. It'll all come together soon. There's the Rosicrucian, one of their symbols, and that is certainly a Mason symbol. There's the crown on top of the compass, the cross with the rose, and the bird feeding its young. Here's a little interesting thing I saw here on the Rosicrucian image website. Let's read a little bit. The great minds were Rosicrucians. Benjamin Franklin, Isaac Newton, Francis Bacon. And so they got a free book here. What secret powers did they possess? The Rosicrucians. The secret method for the mastery of life. Knowledge that has endured with the pyramids. The Rosicrucians, and they got a little application you can fill out. The unpublished facts of life. Secret entrusted to a few. And there's a little application here, and it's signed the Rosicrucians. So you can go on the Rosicrucian image website on Yahoo and you'll find it. The key to all mysteries, the source of all illumination, lies deep within the self, from a Rosicrucian manuscript. And in California, this is the Rosicrucian headquarters. So it's no small thing. And I thought this was interesting, the Rosicrucian symbology. And you know, it's got the sun in the middle, I suspect, with the flames, and then the planets, Saturn and the other planets. I just thought I'd take a look at that for a minute. Now I realize this may seem a little boring, but I think the point will unveil itself, because as we know, in most of the major cities are gigantic buildings, the Masonic lodges, and Orlando had a small lodge, A&M or whatever, on every neighborhood had one. Chicago, the gigantic building. Here in Asheville, North Carolina, they have one. And they, in their New Age magazines, Separation of Church and State. And we know they're all over the planet, lodges everywhere. So it's just probably important to, this is the Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. You can't get a closer book to Freemasonry than this one. It's just kind of nice to know what they're thinking. What is the Rosicrucian relationship? And I do write essays on press releases where you do blogs and comments. And I've had a couple people email me or comment back and say, leave the Rosicrucians out of it. They have nothing to do with the Freemasons or the Illuminati or all this other craziness, the New World Order, New Age. And as we know from the previous video I made, number 40, the occultic and the New Age are all one. And the symbols here with the Rosicrucians are, for all practical purposes, exactly the same. So let me read a little more. In this Persian faith, as taught many centuries before our era, the embodied of the Zen Avesta, there was a man in a pure principle, proceeding from the Supreme Being, produced by the will and the word of Osman. To that was united an impure principle proceeding from a foreign influence, that of Ahriman, the dragon, and principle of evil. Tempted by Ahriman, the first man and woman had fallen, and for 12,000 years there was to be war between Osmud and the good spirits created by him, and Ahriman and the evil ones whom he had called into existence. But pure souls are assisted by good spirits. The triumph of the good principle is determined upon the decrees of the Supreme Being, and the period of that triumph will infallibly arrive. At the moment when earth shall be most afflicted with the evils brought in upon by the spirits of perdition, 3 prophets will appear to bring assistance to mortals. Sounds like a sci-fi movie here. Sosioth, chief of the 3, will regenerate the world and restore it to its primitive beauty, strength, and purity. He will judge the good and the wicked. After the universal resurrection of the good, the pure spirits will conduct them to an abode of eternal happiness. Ahriman, his evil demons, and all the world will be purified by a torrent of liquid burning metal. The law of Orsman will rule everywhere. All men will be happy. All enjoying an unalterable bliss will unite with the associates in singing the praises of the Supreme Being. These doctrines, with some modifications, were adopted by the Kabbalists and afterwards the Gnostics. So the Gnostic religion and the Kabbalists would be we know, most people know the Jewish people are into the Kabbalah. Hollywood is, a lot of that is into occult. Madonna studies the Kabbalah. So we're tying the Kabbalah here with the Gnostics, and that would be the pagan religions of many gods. Aristotle says, page 283, it has been handed down in a mythical form from the earliest time to prosperity that there are gods, and that the divine encompasses entire nature. So the divine encompasses entire nature. All besides this has been added, after the mythical style, for the purpose of persuading the multitude and for the interest of the laws and the advantage of the state. Philo says, he who disbelieves the miraculous, simply as the miraculous, neither knows God, nor has he ever sought after him, for otherwise he would have understood by looking at the truly great and awe-inspiring sight, the miracle of the universe, that these miracles in God's providential guidance of his people are but child's play for the divine power. Page 286. Man fell, seduced by evil spirits, most remote from the great King of Light, those of the 4th world of spirits, Asha, the chief who was Belai. They wage incessant war against the pure intelligence of the other worlds, who, like the Amarshapes, can't say some of these names, Izids and Flores, are the Persians, are the tutelary guardians of man. In the beginning, all was unison, harmony, full of the same divine light and perfect purity. The 7 kings of evil fell, and the universe was troubled. Then the Creator took from the 7 kings the principle of good and of light, divided them among the 4 worlds of spirits, giving to the first 3 the pure intelligences. Moving on, Marcion, the Gnostic, said, the soul of the true Christian, adopted as a child by the Supreme Being, to whom it has long been a stranger, receives from him the Spirit and divine life. It is led and confirmed by this gift in a pure and holy life like that of God, and if so, completes its earthly career in charity, chastity, and sanctity, and it will one day be disengaged from its material envelope as the ripe grain is detached from the straw and as the young bird escapes from its shell. So I guess that means when you leave your body. Like the angels, it will share in the bliss of the good and perfect Father, reclothed in an aerial body or organ, made like unto the angels of heaven. Well, that sounds nice. It is this light, the true knowledge of divinity, the eternal good, for which Masons of all ages have sought. Still Masonry marches steadily onward toward that light that shines in the great distance, the light of that day when evil, overcome and vanquished, shall fade away and disappear forever, and light and life be the one law of the universe, and it's an eternal harmony. The degree of the Rose Cross teaches three things: the unity, immobility, and goodness of God, the immortality of the soul, and the ultimate defeat and extinction of evil and wrong and sorrow by a Redeemer or a Messiah yet to come, if he has not already appeared. Are they talking about Mithra? Well, we already talked about that. It replaces the three pillars of the old temple with three that have already been explained to you: faith in God, mankind, and man's self; hope in the victory over evil and the advancement of harmony and a hereafter; charity, relieving the wants and tolerant of the errors and faults of others; to be trustful, to be hopeful, to be indulgent. These, in an age of selfishness, of ill opinion, of human nature, of harsh and bitter judgment, are the most important Masonic virtues. Well, a lot of that sounds really good. So let's just take a look at some more Rose Croix material. Rose Croix. Well, here's a book I read a few years ago. I got tabs in there and markers. The Rose Croix Philosophy in Questions and Answers. Notice the cross with the rose, the Ankh on the bottom, the Egyptian symbol. Right here. The wings, the lights of rays behind the cross, the rose. This book is pretty worn out. It's falling all apart here. I can take out the pages. But I marked a few things I thought would be interesting to read. So let's just jump into this to page 167. I think a little bit of this will be revealing. The trance state. Question number 56. If it is possible to produce artificially by drugs or otherwise, as I have read, the various mystic states, how is the aspirant to know the genuine from the counterfeit? So when you go into a trance and you're seeing the other side, how is the aspirant, that would be the one who is initiated into the secrets of the occult, to know the genuine from the counterfeit? How distinguish between spiritual enlightenment and psychic intoxication? Okay, that was the question. The answer: many scientific investigators engaged in psychic research have frustrated their object by carrying skepticism to an absurd extreme, so that, as one expresses it in the hearing of the writer, he would not believe in ghosts even if he were to see one. Because there are no ghosts, and he would know that the thing which he thought to be a ghost must only be a hallucination. They are like the redoubtable Celt, who professed to have an open mind, willing to be convinced, and then added with all the intensity, he could put into the phrase, "But show me the man who can do it." This much good the psychic research movement has done, however. Remember I talked about the psychic research movement started around 1840 and lasted right up prior to World War II, 1940. And then it seems to have really tapered off in the public world arena. And I'm just wondering, like we read with the New Age material, that in around 1880-something, they discovered some masters on the other side who reigned supreme. So just more evidence here the scientific research movement was serious. And it has collected an immense amount of facts which are highly valuable in the study of hidden phases of life when we examine them apart from the construction which is the scientific investigations have put upon them. Among other things, it has been noticed in a number of cases where the medium was to all entirely ignorant and uneducated, that the trance condition brought out accomplishments which astounded those present beyond words. So the medium, the one that could go into a trance and contact entities on the other side, was ignorant and uneducated, but when she went under the trance, brought out accomplishments that astounded those present beyond words. There is one case on record where a servant girl, who in the normal state was most stupid and uneducated, delivered a discourse in Hebrew of a most scholarly nature while under the trance condition. And the question presents itself as to how these things are possible. Well, a lot of people know about Edgar Cayce and the many years that he would go into a trance and come up with information about people and cures and remedies for illnesses that doctors couldn't cure. There is only one theory which can give an adequate explanation covering all the facts in every case, namely, that we have all come up to our present status in the scale of evolution. Though many days in the great school of life, each life we have learned some lessons. So they're saying we have life after life, and each life we learn more lessons, and that we are constantly learning more. Just letting you know what's in the Rose Croix Philosophy Questions and Answer Manual, published in 1947, and this guy here is a pretty famous person, Max Handel. Probably said his last name wrong. Handel, H-E-I-N-D-E-L. Author of The Rosicrucian Cosmos Conception, the Message of the Stars, Teachings of an Initiate, first edition, 1947. The Rosicrucian Fellowship, Oceanside, California, International Headquarters. Thus we have in the course of time acquired a vast amount of knowledge which is growing day by day and life by life. Our vehicles have become better, that would be your human body, more sensitive and refined. But no body on earth is capable of expressing all that the indwelling spirit knows. So the spirit inside your body knows more than you know, because your human body is only capable of seeing a small spectrum of the reality around you. My interpretation. Nor is it intended by divine hierarchies. So apparently on the other side there are divine hierarchies. Whole pyramid of structure of leaders and people under them, hierarchies, who guide our evolution that it should, for this versatility would prevent us from concentrating our efforts upon the particular lessons we need to learn here in a particular environment. You're going to love this next part here. I got a little bit of a glare there. The sun's rays are shining on me. Take, for instance, the case quoted of the stupid servant girl, whom the trance medium showed to be a scholar. Judging from the facts of the case, she had, in the opinion of the writer, a brilliant mind in a former existence, but probably proud, arrogant, and overbearing. Hence it became necessary to teach her a lesson in humility, and she was born in a humble environment where no educational advantages were offered her. Therefore, the brain became dull, and she drifted into a condition of servitude, little short of slavery, which is so prevalent in Central Europe, that she might learn a much-needed lesson in humility. This class of cases shows that a possession of a much greater amount of knowledge and experience which lies latent and hidden in every individual, and which is accessible when the normal sense of life of the body has been stilled for the time being. We may also note that this phenomenon differs very sharply and radically from the psychic activities observable under spirit control. According to the writer's observations of hundreds of cases, when a medium is controlled by the spirit, the ego of the medium, clothed in its finer vehicles, is driven out of the body. So I guess you can have spiritual possession, demonic possession. And the controlling spirit then stands behind the victim, manipulating the tongue and the limbs of the medulla oblongata. I guess that's part of the spine, causing to move or speak just as desired. The light of life is then seen as a flaming torch rising from the spinal canal into the medulla, where is heard a sound somewhat resembling the humming of an alternating current arc of light. Another sounding light projected by the controlling spirit overshadows and overwhelms the first light, and by that means holds the physical body in an unconscious condition. But it is really painful to hear the frantic buzzing of the victim's light of life struggling against the aggressor. Interesting. Their theory of that your soul inside of you is much more knowledgeable, and under the state of a trance, your other knowledge, whatever you know, will come out. Alright, here's another one. During sleep, does one actually come in contact with relatives and friends who have been out of the body for 20 years? Or is it simply the working of memory? The usual time of duration of one's stay in the desire world after leaving the body at death is 1/3 the length of the life lived in the body. By this measure, but this measure is only a guide. So if you live to be 60 years old and you died, you would stay in this desire world, the spirit world, for 20 years before you would be reincarnated, according to what's written in this book here. Like I said, it's just the Rose Croix training questions and answer philosophy manual. You'll probably find one of these on a used book site, not so tattered condition. Alright, another one here. Question number 59. Why is it that clairvoyants give such differing views and ideas of what they see in the invisible worlds that it is utterly impossible to reconcile their accounts? So different clairvoyants, people who can see into the future, the past, elsewhere, they have different, impossible to reconcile their accounts. The answer, again, this would be from Max Hindel. You saw his picture there. High-level initiate, I'm sure. Answer, the question has been thoroughly explained in the Rosicrucian Cosmos conception. It hinges to a considerable extent upon the fact that in the invisible world, forms are so plastic that they can change their shape in the twinkling of an eye, and thus give the untrained seer an entirely wrong idea. I wonder if, everybody sees reports of abductions and aliens and UFOs. Makes you wonder about this manifestations. The twinkling of an eye gives the untrained seer an entirely wrong idea. Hence, training is absolutely necessary to observation. There are, as here. Sometimes reading some other people's writing just doesn't go right with my brain. But you are mistaken in the idea that all disagree. There are a considerable number of people who have developed a spiritual sight, or perhaps have acquired it involuntarily, but who are nevertheless see things alike and thus collaborate one another's statements. We have, for instance, before us the review of a book written by a hospital nurse who has been present at many deathbeds and there observed exactly the same thing that we have written in our various books for the last 10 years. The book is called The Ministry of Angels. I believe I have that book somewhere. And, you know, when people died, she could see the spirits rising above the bodies and leaving. So that would be called The Ministry of Angels. So let me get on with a little more here. Of my book that's falling apart. Alright, here we go. Atlanteans. Atlanteans who had not evolved lungs. Question number 129. What became of the people who had not evolved lungs at the time of the flood? Were they given an opportunity to build later? Answer. This refers to the people of the Atlantic epoch, when the mists were beginning to condense. At that time, humanity lived down in the mist-filled basins of the earth. They didn't have, they say in ancient times, they didn't have rain like we have now. The air was more misty, full of more water. They were the Neobelung, or children of the mist. They breathed by gill cliffs. And again, if you look online on the reptilians images, apparently when they lose control of their shape-shifting abilities, their gilled cliffs become visible in their teeth, more like vampires' teeth. Check it out. I think we looked at it on my last video. At that time, humanity lived down in the mist-filled basins of the earth. We find this in the memory of nature, and we find it also in the prenatal development of the child in the stage when it breathes by gill clefts. In order to come up here on the highlands to live in the purified atmosphere we have today, it was necessary that they should build lungs, otherwise they would be asphyxiated. Some worked with the law of evolution and built lungs, others did not. During the time when we went through the various periods, there was a growth of the threefold body. This work was carried on until we came to the Atlantic epoch, which was the time of involution. At that time, we didn't see outwardly as we see now. We saw inwardly. So I'm looking at the camera, I'm seeing outwardly, and at that time they saw inwardly. All our forces were turned inward, and we built organs at that time. That was our means of evolution. So I suppose instead of me looking out at this camera, I could look inside my body and build organs. Interesting. Just thought I'd familiarize ourselves for this series, Freemasonry and Satanism. And I should further explain the Satanism thing, which is going to happen right now, because this is question number 142. I am a Mason, and would like to know what determines the time of Easter each year. Also, what is the connection between the resurrection of Christ at Easter and the resurrection of Hiram Abiff in the Masons' ritual? Answer. The Masonic legend says that in the beginning Jehovah created Eve and the Lucifer spirit Samuel, united with her, and from this union Cain was born. So Jehovah created Eve and the Lucifer spirit, which would, I guess, would be some entity from God's world. It was a spirit. United with her, and from this union Cain was born. Then the Lucifer spirit Samuel, left Eve, and she became virtually a widow. Well, that's nice to call her a widow when the spirit came and impregnated her and left her with a child, half creation by Eve, human, and half spirit, Samuel. So then Samuel left Eve, and she became virtually a widow. Cain was thus the son of a widow, and from him descended all of the craftsmen of the world, including Hiram Abiff. So all the talented, skillful craftsmen of the world came from the Lucifer spirit, his son Cain. That's what they think today. There's two types of people on the planet. The one descendants of Cain, and we'll get to the descendant of the other one here in a second. Including all the descendants of the craftsmen of the world, including Hiram Abiff, the grand master workman of Solomon's temple, who is therefore also called the son of a widow, as are all Freemasons to this day. So all Freemasons are called the son of a widow. Again, why is she a widow when the spirit who impregnated her skipped out on her and left her with the son Cain? What does that make an abandoned child that we call it these days? All right. As are all Freemasons. After Samuel had left Eve, Jehovah created Adam. So he created Eve first, spirit got her pregnant, left her with a child, Cain. Samuel left, the spirit of Lucifer. And so God, feeling sad for lonely Eve now, created Adam. And he united with Eve. So Adam united with Eve, they had sex, with the result of Abel being born. So now they have two kids, Cain and Abel. Thus Cain was semi-divine, inspired by his own inherent creative genius, which is seen in his sons to this day in statecraft. Could that be all our evil politicians, the CEOs, the Illuminati, and all industrial inventions which go to make the civilized world? So all the smart people and hard-working people are descendants of Cain, according to this. Told you this video would get a little interesting. Be a little patient with the boring material. While Abel was the child of two human beings, okay, so Cain was the son of the spirit, Lucifer, and Eve, and then Adam came, so Abel was the son of two humans, Adam and Eve. He did not know how to create, but tended docilely the flock already created for him by the author of his being, Jehovah. So they're saying the human, created by two humans, wasn't very motivated and just wanted to tend the flock and not be an industrial creator, according to this. It's an interesting point of view. Not that I buy it. Jehovah slighted the sacrifice of Cain, who had made 2 blades of grass grow where formerly there was one. So Cain made 2 blades of grass where there was one, and Jehovah wasn't impressed. He would rather have a docile automaton like Abel, who could be depended upon to obey implicitly his commands, than an original thinker like Cain. So it's saying here Jehovah, God, would rather just have a dumb slave than a smart thinker. Does anybody believe that? So there was enmity between Cain and Abel, which the result was the latter was slain. So Cain slew Abel. A lot of people know this Bible stuff. Then Seth was born, so the first human one, Abel, was killed by Cain, and Adam and Eve had a second child named Seth. Was the result of the later beast was slain. Then Seth was born, and from him have descended all those who follow blindly the dictates of their Creator and are known as the priestcraft and their followers. So this is where the enmity between the Catholic Church or the other churches and the New Age, Freemason, Masonic, Rose Croix, Satanists, Illuminati, and all those people. They think they're industrial creators, and the rest of us who want to be good people follow blindly the dictates of the Creator, also known as the priestcraft, and their followers. Among them was Solomon the king. To him Jehovah revealed the design for his temple, but Solomon was unable to execute the design, and therefore was compelled to engage Hiram Abiff, a cunning craftsman, son of Cain, and therefore the son of a widow. High mystic Masons recognize the fact that from the cosmic viewpoint, Hiram Abiff is symbolized by the sun. While the sun, Hiram, is in the northern signs, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, he is among faithful friends and followers. But when in the course of the year he enters the southern signs, Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius, he is assaulted by the three conspirators as recorded in the Masonic legend, and finally slain at the winter solstice to be again resurrected as he climbs towards the equator, which he crosses the vernal equinox. The Masonic legend relates that the Queen of Sheba journeyed from afar to see the wise Solomon, of whom she had heard so much. She was also shown the beautiful temple and wanted to see the cunning craftsman. The master builder. So the Queen of Sheba, who was going to marry King Solomon, was impressed with the temple and wanted to see the master builder and his workmen who had wrought such a marvel. But there had always been enmity between the sons of Cain and the sons of Seth. So King Solomon was a son of Seth, and Hiram Abiff, who had the talent and the magic to build the temple, was the son of Cain. Even when they have cooperated, they have never trusted each other fully, and Solomon feared that his beautiful fiancée, Queen of Sheba, might become enamored of Hiram Abiff, so he was jealous that she might like him. Therefore he endeavored to call the workman himself, but none responded. They knew the voice of their shepherd, Hiram Abiff, the son of Aries, the sign of the Lamb. They were trained to obey his call and would heed no other voice. Therefore Solomon was finally forced to send for Hiram Abiff, request that he call his artisans, and the moment he lifted his hammer, Aries, which is the sign of his authority and exaltation, there came in a multitude that could not be numbered, each one eager to do his will. In the spring of the sun, Hiram enters Aries, the sign of his exaltation. The sign is shaped like a hammer which Hiram raised, and all the workmen of the temple, the universe, rush to do his bidding and carry on his work, which he ascends to the throne of his dignity and authority in the northern heavens. So this multiple army that is willing to serve Hiram, the sun god, apparently represented by the sun, and remember by the all-seeing eye on the dollar, which is Osiris's son Horus. There are, on the dollar bill above the pyramid, there's sun's rays, and you're going to see them everywhere. And that would be the spiritual god, I guess, of Lucifer and the descendants here of Cain. He is their shepherd because at the vernal equinoxes, he enters into Aries, the sign of the ram or the lamb. Him they hear, but these nature forces they command from no other than the son of Aries, the eastern sun. This is the cosmic interpretation, but according to the law of analogy, Hiram, the son of Cain, must also be raised to a higher degree of initiation. Only the sun spirit, about to soar into the heavens, could accomplish this feat. Hence Hiram was reborn as Lazarus and raised by the strong grip of the lion's paw. He had been a leader of the craftsmen during the regime of Jehovah and his creature Solomon. By the initiation, he was raised up for the purpose of bringing a leader into the kingdom of Christ and helping the same people into the higher phase of their evolution. Therefore, he became a Christian, charged to explain the mysteries of the cross. With that said, let's take a little break here and look at some more Rose Croix pictures now that we know all that stuff. So, an interesting picture here. It looks like Adam and Eve. The sun's rays. You can go on Rose Croix image and search that, and you'll find the Yahoo website and find these pictures. The Rose Croix emblems of Daniel Kramer. Notice the apple with the eye and the light on top. And it says Illuminor. And as we know, they're into the orientation of the planets. That would be so you do astrology. The tree of life, an interesting thing here with the all-seeing eye on the top. And the wings and the round sun god on the top. And the stuff that's on the Egyptian hieroglyphics, the jackal-headed god. The all-seeing eye on each side. And with the New Age, of course, they had the pyramid as the symbol. The rays of the sun god, the Rose Croix. The rainbow symbol, colors. The crown on the head, the wings in the background, the sun god. There's the sun right there. You can find these on the Rose Croix image website. And it gets into a lot of detail. Six-pointed star. And there's a lot of scientific stuff on here. Remember, they're the industrial builders, the sons of Cain. Not the lazy, boring Christians who just want to tend to their flock of sheep. So it says here. And the sun god head, the woman's body with the baby in it. See it in the stomach? The symbols here, you got the sun's rays, the pyramid, the down pyramid, the up pyramid, New Age stuff. I'm still studying these, not getting the exact meaning yet, but I'll keep studying. And when I do, I'll make another video. This is the Rose Croix headquarters in Oceanside, California, I guess. That's in a Roman famous leader there. You go on the website, you can look up all this stuff. Egyptian Museum, Research Library, Planetarium, Rose Croix Welcome Center. Ooh, and on the bottom of the statue is a six-pointed star in stone. You see it down there? And then remember that Medal of Freedom that Obama gave Clinton and Oprah with the star and the ring around it? So if you look up a witch's website or witchcraft or Satan, you'll see all kinds of that medal that Obama gave Oprah and Clinton, calling it a Medal of Freedom. In fact, it looks like he gave them an occult medal that matches the satanic stuff. And then, of course, we have some more symbols. The six-pointed star, the birds. Another book you can get, Secret Symbols of the Rosicrucian. So I was getting a lot of comments, like I said, in my essays I write, of people telling me to leave the Rosicrucians out of it, but the Rosicrucians are in the Morals and Dogma book for the Freemasons, And we understand a little bit about Cain and Abel and Seth now. The Ankh, the symbol of life, turned into also a pyramid and the cross and the Rose Croix. You gotta remember what this guy's name was that's in the garden of the Rosicrucian headquarters in California. It says here, the Rosicrucian, look at the clouds, the rays, the all-seeing eye. There is an eye in there. And in the Rosicrucian, they have a Egyptian museum inside the Rosicrucian. Again, the dollar bill with the pyramid, the all-seeing eye. All that's Egyptian, the pagan gods. So when people don't believe this stuff, I didn't make it up. There's again the, I guess, Adam and Eve and the different characters. The Phoenix. Remember we talked about Conchita Wurst winning the Eurovision. First name meaning P-U-S-Y, and his head looked like Jesus, his body looked like a beautiful woman in a silky dress. And he sang the song, The Rise of the Phoenix. And there's the Phoenix bird by my fingers. The mysticism and the secrets that they display in front of you. And so, getting back to the pictures of the flying saucers, and this is the Tower of Babel they tried to build to go to heaven. And I went and did some more research on Dr. Stephen Greer and exopolitics. And apparently the issue that I had yesterday, Sunday, that he was having the meeting in the desert and would do some incantations, ancient ones, and call forth the aliens, which is basically calling forth the spirits that we're reading about here. So there's a lot of, I thought to myself, is Dr. Stephen Greer a Freemason, high-level initiate? And I didn't find that, I couldn't find the proof of that, but I found the proof that he's with friends of seemingly bad taste. Bill Clinton, who got the satanic medal, is where he says he got a lot of his information. So how good can you, what kind of connections does he have if his people like Bill, you need to look it up yourself, Bill Clinton and other people in secret parts of the government is where he's getting his information, and having all those sincere hearings and talking about alien sightings and all that stuff. Is he one of them doing disinformation or trying to lead us down the wrong path? Dr. Stephen Greer just became suspicious when he was going into the desert to do that incantation to bring forth the aliens. Many paths, one God. This was at the website. See, the symbols are the same as the Rosicrucians. Iris, look at the rays of the sun. This is the Egyptian museum at the Rosicrucian headquarters in California. So if we keep studying this stuff, which I'm going to continue doing, a lot of these, we know the sun god, the moon god, the crowns, the all-seeing eye Horus, the six-pointed star, the phoenix. Remember that Conchita Wurst sang The Rise of the Phoenix? See the phoenix? It looks like they have an Egyptian boat at the museum. The Rosicrucian Creed. You can find this on the website. I'll just read one of these. I know that the flesh alone may err, the mortal mind may sin. And for each error or sin, flesh and mortal mind must compensate. For man is born in soul goodness, but in mortal ignorance, and from the ignorance alone must man be redeemed and saved. The picture with the all-seeing eye, cross, the phoenix, the sun. represented as the lamb or the goat. So it takes a little bit of work to get the gist of this. The six-pointed star. Again, the headquarters in California, Rose Croix. The above dimension and the lower dimension, this world and that world. And this is one of the big symbols here, the pelican feeding the young, Mother Earth feeding her children, I believe. And of course they are the craftsmen and the scientists, sons of Cain, so they say. All the geometry. I come alive again, and the light shineth in darkness. So they got a little skull there with lighting the candle on top of the skull's head. Reminds me of George Bush's Skull and Bones Lodge, Mason. And here's an interesting one here. We see this at all the doctor's offices. It says, ordinary humanity pursues the spiral path. See the spiral path up the pole? Ordinary humanity goes up that way. The initiate goes straight up the narrow way that leads to God, so the initiate would go straight up that middle pole instead of swirling around it. And the wings, I suspect, at the top are God. So now you got the pyramid was the sign of the New Age. There's the Rose Croix. Much more of the symbols that are on the witchcraft websites and the other occult websites. The Phoenix rising right there on the left. That Cochina, our worst, who won the Eurovision American Idol contest, sang for Phoenix Rising. And some more here, the serpent eating itself in the triangle. The Great Pyramid of Giza is on the Rose Croix site, aimed at the star system, Sirius and other ones. And the Ankh, the like cross-like thing on the top, the symbol for life. And the pelican feeding the young is a common symbol. I'm going to dig into that more. And I guess if you're an initiate and get certain degrees, you get your ring with the Rosy Cross and the sun's ray behind it. This is a good picture here, interesting. It's got to keep shh with his finger. And it says here, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth to the light and few that be that thou art find it. It's kind of hard to read. And some more at the Rose Croix website. Looks like a King Solomon temple or Masonic lodge. So I'll close this up with a little bit more from the Rose Croix. So my biggest point here was to just, for one thing, a lot of people were telling me to leave the Rose Croix out of it. And I wanted to just show that the occult and the same language of the gods and Osiris and all that is all the same that's in there. Alright, a little more here. Okay. If any see in it also a type of sorrow, of the craft for the death of Hiram, the grief of the Jews at the fall of Jerusalem, the misery of the temples at the ruin of their order, and the death of Demoloi, or the world's agony, and pangs of woe at the death of the Redeemer, it is the right of each to do so. So let me say that one more time. If any see in it also a type of the sorrow, of the craft for the death of Hiram. So they say if you mourn the death of Hiram, like you would, I'm rewording this, like you would mourn if you were a Jew at the fall of Jerusalem, or a Templar at the ruin of the order, or the death of Demoloi, I guess when the Pope had him killed, or the world's agony and pangs, or woe at the death of the Redeemer. So they're comparing the death of Hiram with the death of the Redeemer Jesus. Then it is the right thing to do. That's what he said. The third apartment represents the consequences of sin and vice and the hell made of the human heart by its fiery passions. If any see in it also a type of the Hades of the Greeks, the Gehenna of the Hebrews, the Tartarus of the Romans, or the hell of the Christians. So they're still comparing the death of Hiram to the hell of the Christians, or only the agonies of remorse and the tortures of the unbraided conscience. It is the right of each to do so. So that's quite a lot of sorrow for comparing Hiram to Jesus dying on the cross. Let each apply its symbols as he pleases. To all of us, this typifies the universal rule of Masonry, of its three chief virtues: faith, hope, and charity, of brotherly love and universal benevolence. We labor here to no end. These symbols need no other interpretation. The obligations of our ancient brethren of the Rose Croix were to fulfill all the duties of friendship, cheerfulness, charity, peace, liberty, temperance, and chastity, and scrupulously to avoid impurity, haughtiness, hatred, anger, and every other kind of vice. They took their philosophy from the old theology of the Egyptians, of Moses and Solomon have done. Now remember, they want you to mourn the death of Hiram as similar to Jesus and all these other people. But Hiram was the son of Cain, who was the son of Lucifer, descendant. Matches the New Age material. Their principal rules were to exercise the profession of medicine charitably, without fee, to advance the causes of virtue, to enlarge the sciences, and to induce men to live in the primitive times of the world. So they want to induce men to live in the primitive times of the world. So they want to take away all our modern living and make us live more like in communes. Wouldn't that be like communism? So these free thinkers who need time to think and design things and build things need all the subservient, docile followers of Christianity, sons of Seth. Is that their thought of opinion of us? Would that explain our reality? Got to read a lot of books to get that kind of thinking. None admit an adept to their lofty philosophical knowledge and mysterious sciences until he has been purified at the altar of the symbolic degree. So they won't admit you unless you've been purified at the altar. Of what importances are differences of opinion as to the age and genealogy of the degree, or variances in the practice, ceremonial, and liturgy, or the shade of color of the banner under which each tribe of Israel marched? If all revere the holy arch of the symbolic degree, first and unalterable source of Freemasonry. If all revere our conservative principles and are with us in the great purposes of our organization. The cross has been a sacred symbol from the earliest antiquity. It is found upon all the enduring monuments of the world, in Egypt, in Assyria, in Hindustan, in Persia, and on the Buddhist Tower of Ireland. Buddha was said to have died upon it. The Druids cut an oak into its shape and held it as sacred. and built their temples in that form. So they're trying to diminish the Christians' opinion of the cross by saying there are many other entities and societies and histories that were using the cross. Pointing to the four quarters of the world, it was the symbol of universal nature. It was on a cruciform tree that Kirchner was said to have expired, pierced with arrows. It was revered in Mexico. But its particular meaning in this degree is that given by it by the ancient Egyptians. Thought, or Pintha, is represented as on the oldest monuments carrying in his hand the Cruz Asanta. So that's the cross with the circle on top. The Teo cross with the ring and circle over it. He is so seen on the double tablet of the Sufu and the No Sufu, builders of the greatest of the pyramids at Wadi Magahara in the peninsula of the Sinai. It was the hieroglyphic for life, with a triangle prefixed meaning life-giving. So to us, therefore, it was the symbol of life. So we saw that circle over the top of the cross was the Ankh, is the symbol of life. The rose was anciently sacred to Aurora and the sun. It is the symbol of the dawn. The cross and rose together are therefore hieroglyphically to be read, the dawn of eternal life, which all nations have hoped for by the advent of the Redeemer. So would that be the Mithras that they're saying is coming? I was looking through an old notebook, and something I found in February in my research, the Mithric Mysteries. I thought they say the Mithras is coming, the new Christ. The Mithric Mysteries were a mystery religion practiced in the Roman Empire from about the 1st to the 4th centuries AD. So it was around the 4th century AD that Constantine had a big meeting and converted to Christianity and collected a lot of documents and made the Bible. So that was about 4 AD. So between 1 and 4, the Mithric Mysteries were a mystery religion practiced in the Roman Empire. The name of the Persian god Mithra, Proto-Indo-Iranian Mithra, adopted into the Greek as Mithras, was linked to a new and distinctive imagery. Writers of the Roman Empire period referred to this mystery religion by phrases that can be angelicized as the mystery of Mithras and the mysteries of the Persians. Modern historians refer to it as Mithraism, or sometimes Roman Mithraism. So with the Pope right now talking to the Protestants saying all of our differences are gone and we need to have a universal church, Catholic means universal, are they reverting to this religion? The mysteries were popular in Roman military. Worshippers of Mithras had a complex system of 7 grades of initiation, were ritual meals. Initiates called themselves Sidoxial, those united by the handshake. So we know the Freemasons have secret handshakes. They met in underground temples called Mithria, which survive in large numbers. The cult appears to have had its center in Rome. So there's some pictures here. So I'm just saying there's more to this Mithras than meets the eye. The name Mithras is a form of Mithra, the name of an old Persian god. This point has been understood by Mithras scholars since the days of Franz Cumont. An early example of the Greek form of the name of the 4th century Persian king Cyrus the Great. Mithras is depicted as being born from a rock. He is shown as emanating from a rock already in his youth with a dagger in one hand and a torch in the other, and he is nude, wearing a pyjama cap and holding his legs together. So they got this God coming that's supposed to save everybody, and I thought you might want to know a little bit more about that. So again, let me just finish reading this here. The cross and rose together are therefore hieroglyphically to be read the dawn of eternal life, which all nations have hoped for by the advent of the Redeemer. Is this Mithras guy coming is the Redeemer? The eagle was the living symbol of the Egyptian god Mendes, and if you look up Mendes, it looks like Satan with the horns, the goat god. Or Mentra, whose Seresto Ramses made one with Amun-Re, the god of Thebes and Upper Egypt, in the representation of the sun and the word Re meaning sun and king. The compass surmounted with the crown, that's what we saw that in the pictures of the Rose Croix. The compass surmounted with the crown signifies, notwithstanding, the high rank attained in Masonry by a Knight of the Rosy Cross. Equity and impartiality are invariably to govern his conduct. To the word INRI inscribed on the Crux Santa over the Master's seat, many meanings have been assigned. The Christian initiate reverently sees it as the initials of the inscriptions upon the cross of which Christ suffered: Jesus, Nazareth, Rex, and Dunum. The sages of antiquity connected with one of the greatest secrets of nature, that of the universal regeneration. They interpret it as ignu natura nona integriga, so I guess that's universal regeneration. Entire nature is renovated by fire. The alchemists and Hermetic Masons formed it as this aphorism, ignu neutron rosis inventua. This is page 291, and maybe you can read these words better than I am. Alright, so the cross was the sign of the creative wisdom of the Logos, the Son of God. Plato says he expressed him upon the universe as on the figure of the letter X. The next power to the supreme God was discussed and figured in the shape of a cross on the universe. I think the last part of this video is going to be a little bit the bomb. We did this book a little bit. Messages from Maitreya the Christ. The wind is blowing my stuff away. And I guess that would be Maitreya the Christ. And this book here, Morals and Dogma, Mithras, and the Roman thing was Mithric Mysteries. So I'm going to tie three things together here. Mithras signed his soldiers on the forehead with a cross. The X is the mark of 600. The mysterious cycle of the incarnations. We constantly see the Tau and the Rish united with the P. So they're talking about the symbols here for the staff of Osiris the god was adopted by the Christians as the sign. But it mentions Mithras. The Egyptians used the sign for their god Canobus. The Venetians of India used the same sacred tau, in which they also used the mark of the crosses. And the X, and then the triangles, the double triangles. The vestments of the priest of Horus, the all-seeing eye on a dollar bill, were covered with these crosses. So was the dress of the lunar, Lama of the Tibet, the sectarian marks of the Jains, X's, the distinguished badge of the sect of Japonius was the swastika that Hitler used. It is the sign of foe, identical with the cross of Christ. So there's just a lot of interesting things here. We got the Maitreya, the Christ coming, and Mithras here, and also that it's a Mithric religion from 1 to 400 AD with the Roman Empire. The Romans themselves regarded the mysteries as having a Persian or Zoroastrian sources. So again, my point is here, is we can tie the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, the stuff the churches know in secret, the Zionism, which we're going to get involved with next, the satanic symbols, the medal that Obama gave Oprah and Clinton, the Hollywood symbols, into the occultic, all the psychic research. So when people say, Rick, you're crazy, none of this is going on. So I thought I'd just investigate the Rosicrucians a little. Here they're talking about communicating with spirits. And if you get put in a trance and who you really are, if you're more intelligent or somebody else, that entity will come through. And we know in the Bible, Jesus apparently cast out in at least a dozen cases people possessed by demons. And we got this guy says he's coming with putting on newspapers all over the United States and radio, and the New Age is mixed in with this and the New World Order. And apparently this Mithras person looks like this here. And in Morals and Dogma, the Freemason book. So when people tell me to leave the Rosicrucians out of it, how can you leave them out of it when they're definitely it? Oh, some demon seems to torture it with doubts and to crush it with despair, asking whether, after all, it is certain that its convictions are true, and its faith well-founded, whether it is indeed sure that a God of infinite love and beneficiary rules the universe, or some other great remorseless fate and iron necessity, hid in the impenetrable gloom to which men and their sufferings and sorrows, their hopes and their joys, their ambitions and their deeds, are no more interest or importance than the motes that dance in the sunshine. Or a being that amuses himself with the incredibly vanity and folly, the writhings and contortions of the insignificant insect that composes humanity. This is in the Freemasons book. Idly imagine that they resemble the omnipotent. What are we, the Templar asked, but puppets in a showbox? O omnipotent destiny, pull our strings gently, dance us mercifully off of our miserable little stage. Is it not, the demon whispers, merely that inordinate vanity of man that causes him now to pretend himself that he is like unto God in intellect, sympathies, and passions? Well, now you know a little bit more what's in the Freemasonic book, what's in the Rosicrucian book. We already read a little bit from this book. I could read one more of his little messages. My dear friends, I am happy indeed, the coming of this Mithric Christ, to be with you once again in this way. Happy I am, too, to see around your heads the light of aspiration and of love. I just randomly opened this to page 214. These aspects, my friends, will bring you safely to the feet of God. Let me speak to you once more about love, about the sharing in justice, for these are the basis and the crown of your lives. When mankind knows love, justice, and sharing, mankind will know God. What is that? The sons of Cain or the sons of Seth? The ones who know how to do everything, or the ones who want to be docile little sheep? Just asking. May it not be that you have heard of love before, yet find it difficult to manifest. Why should that be so, my friends, when your nature is love itself? Essentially, you are God, and God and love are one. Manifest that which you are, my brothers and sisters, and become the gods that you are. There is no quicker way to God than through the manifestation of love, justice, and service. Share and grow in love, my friends, and realize your Godhead. Grow through love and service, and come with me to your source. Let me lead you there too, my brothers, and let us stand together before the Shining One. Look at all these pictures of the shining rays. Kneel at his divine feet and know the bliss of the peace of God. When you see me, you will see a simple brother. This is what the Mithras says. And friend, but no one knows the path to God, has trodden it long before and seeks to teach you the way. But one who knows the path to God, has trodden it long before and seeks to teach you the way. Let me show you, my friends, that this simple way is open to all men. I shall help you place your feet on that luminous path and shall guide you to him. Make haste to know me. Make haste to serve me. Make known my presence among you. Be ready to listen. Judge wisely. Grasp your brother's hand, and together we shall change the world. May the divine light and love and power of the One, most holy God, be now manifest within your hearts and minds. May this manifestation take you quickly and lightly to the feet of God. So anyways, a lot of people are into the New Age, and they've heard George Bush mention the New World Order, and we see the Masonic temples in every city and every town, all over the world, under different names: Scottish Rite, York Rite, Rosicrucians, the Illuminati, the Zionism, the Kabbalah, the occultism, the Satanism. It's all one and the same. It's the sons of Cain, I guess, against the sons of Seth. The people who think they deserve, that they're the only ones with intellect and deserve everything, and the other ones should be docile sheep and kiss the feet of these people, if they're people at all. And I think it has everything to do with the UFO alien thing. I don't believe in two realities. There's only one reality. And it's either one or the other. And that's my opinion. So Dr. Stephen Greer having that incantation in the desert to call forth the aliens just seemed a little suspicious to me. That's my research, and I'm sticking to it. And I may not be right on everything, but I'm certainly seeking the truth. Thank you for watching my video.